Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honourable colleagues. I rise today to address the inquiry by Senator Omidvar, drawing the attention of the Senate to the link between Canada's past and present and future prosperity and its deep connection to immigration. I wish to express my heartfelt thanks to the Senator for her unparalleled commitment to immigration rights and to issues of diversity and inclusion. I would also like to extend my sincere thanks to our colleague, Senator Ravalia, who gave a vibrant testimony of how Canada, and particularly the beautiful province of Newfoundland and Labrador, has been a fertile and caring home for him. His settlement as a doctor in a rural area, his commitment to the poor, his community involvement, and the national influence of his actions demonstrate well how Canada has been enriched by his presence and testifies to the invaluable contribution of all those who choose our country as their home. While our cities and towns are undeniably a huge draw, those who, like Senator Ravalia, dare to move outside of the major centres to rural areas find less dense, I agree, but equally vibrant and enriching environments. Anyone who settles here in a spirit of openness, with the curiosity to learn about those who came before them and who shaped this land, will be able to blossom and realize their greatest aspirations. Senator Ravalia settled in the small town of Twillingate, whose name was originally Twillingay. Indeed, this place was named by Breton fishermen during their cod and whale fishing campaigns. The landscape of this coastline reminded them of the Twillingay Point in Brittany. This means that our vast territory, inhabited for thousands of years by the Indigenous peoples who have welcomed us so generously and to whom we owe so much, has a power of attraction and fascinates Francophones from all over the world. That is to say, if Quebec is a welcoming place for them, so are the Francophone and Acadian communities of Canada. I would like to speak to you about the importance of Francophone immigration to Canada, and particularly to Acadia and Francophone minority communities in Canada. Let us first recall that the purpose of the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act is to, and I quote, enrich and strengthen the social and cultural fabric of Canada, while respecting its federal, bilingual, and multicultural character. Support and assist the development of official language minority communities in Canada. It also states, and I quote, that the interpretation and implementation of this act shall have the effect of supporting the commitment by the Government of Canada to enhance the vitality of the English and French linguistic minority communities in Canada. Over the years, the federal government has taken numerous initiatives to encourage Francophone immigration, whether it be through the development of the Federal Provincial Territorial Action Plan to increase Francophone immigration outside Quebec, the Action Plan on Official Languages 2018-2023, which established a target of 4.4% for Francophone immigration outside Quebec, the Francophone Immigration Strategy in 2019, and most recently, the Official Languages Act reform document entitled English and French Towards Real Equality of Official Languages in Canada. These numerous initiatives certainly reflect an awareness of the importance of Francophone immigration for linguistic minority communities. But they also highlight the challenges of developing truly effective immigration strategies that take into account all of the challenges faced by these communities and all their realities, whether economic, cultural, or social. The document tabled by the Minister of Economic Development and Official Languages provides for the inclusion in the Official Languages Act of an obligation for the Minister of Immigration to present an action plan for Francophone immigration in order to make this practice permanent. The government therefore proposes that the Modernize Act provide a framework for a Francophone immigration policy and support the Francization of newcomers, and I quote, in a manner that is adapted to the reality of the provinces and territories and in cooperation with the provincial and territorial governments. This commitment, combined with the most recent announcements regarding the score assigned to French-speaking immigrant candidates and the absence of a limit on the number of candidates, seem to me to bode well. But we will have to wait to see the tangible results of these strategies before claiming victory. But what is the portrait of Francophone immigration today? Without overwhelming you with figures, here is some enlightening information. According to the IRCC's annual report to Parliament, in 2019, Francophone immigration outside Quebec represented 2.82% of all permanent residents admitted to Canada outside Quebec, while the target is 4.4%. This rate of 2.82% represents 8,465 new Francophones in the country for the year 2019. Recently, we learned that this rate had increased, exceeding 3% for the year 2020. However, we must put this data into perspective considering the decrease in immigrants observed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. In fact, this rate represents 5,755 Francophone immigrants outside of Quebec out of a total of 184,000 new immigrants. It is therefore not a real increase. We will have to wait a few years to verify that this increase in the rate represents a real trend and that we are indeed approaching the targets set, which are clearly insufficient to counter the demographic decline, in my opinion. With some 300 million Francophones in the world, and recognizing that there are many prospective immigrants who want to settle in Canada, our country must do much more and much better in the area of Francophone immigration, because this is not an anecdotal fact for Francophone minority communities, far from it. Across the country, colleagues, impressive efforts are being made by these communities to welcome newcomers. Organizations have become professionalized and have developed valuable expertise in providing immigrants with meaningful support upon their arrival in our regions. That being said, although vibrant and active in terms of immigration, Francophone minority communities, comprising approximately 2.7 million Francophones, face many challenges, including the decline of their demographic weight. Using French as the first official language spoken, Statistics Canada has projected that by 2036, this proportion of the Canadian population will reach 3% if nothing is done. Considering that in 1971 we were at 6.6%, this is a sobering thought. In addition to population decline, many of these communities are in rural areas. As we know, almost all rural Canada is facing an exodus to the big cities where job opportunities are sometimes more diversified. It is therefore imperative to prioritize concrete immigration actions that take these realities into account. In this regard, I agree with Senator Omidvar when she says, and I quote, that it would be advantageous to have a multidimensional vision and to accept that an economy needs workers and talented people in all positions. End of quote. And I would add this, and this everywhere in the country, as much in rural regions as in urban regions, as much in Francophone communities as in Anglophone communities. Francophone immigration strategies that take all these realities into account would make it possible to truly diversify the distribution of immigration across the country and to move away from the Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver hub that we all know so well. Some studies clearly express the particularity of Francophone minority communities as host communities. The Atlantic region, for example, is characterized by rural areas where multiculturalism is much less present than elsewhere in the country, and where Francophone communities, although a minority, are important and have a strong cultural identity. In this region, the Acadian people make up almost the entire Francophone population. The French-speaking immigrant wishing to settle in this region, attracted by this vibrant culture, sometimes finds him or herself in an Anglo-dominant context where socioeconomic integration can be more difficult without a command of English. Aspiring immigrants must be aware of this reality before settling in. There are several other issues for prospective immigrants in Francophone regions. The information on work opportunities provided prior to their decision to immigrate must be consistent with the reality of the territory. Since integration into the job market is central to the migration project, it is essential to provide them with this information before their arrival. Promotional missions, for example, conducted outside the country must provide aspiring immigrants with clear information about the steps that must be taken to have their diplomas recognized in order to obtain a job that corresponds to the immigrants' expectations. In this regard, important discussions must take place with professional associations for the recognition of diplomas and with post-secondary educational institutions so that the maximum amount of experience acquired by a newcomer is recognized and credited. Finally, information on the cultural, economic, and social context of these communities, as well as on the processes of reception, must be intelligible and culturally appropriate. These are some of the issues facing Francophone and Acadian communities in Canada that the federal, provincial, and territorial governments must take into account in developing and implementing their immigration strategies. In conclusion, I have drawn this portrait of the challenges facing Francophone immigration to minority communities today, primarily to make us aware of this reality. However, I would be remiss, colleagues, if I did not conclude without mentioning the countless successes that Francophone communities in a minority setting have had in welcoming newcomers. Despite the obstacles, these communities work hard to welcome newcomers and are deeply grateful when an immigrant and his or her family choose them to live this immigration experience. In the recent New Brunswick municipal elections, the municipality of Shippagan elected the first Black mayor of African descent in New Brunswick. And we're very proud of that. Mr. Kassim Doumbia, originally from the Ivory Coast, arrived in New Brunswick in 2007. Very active in his community, he has been a Shippagan city councillor since 2010 and is vice president of the Société Nationale de l'Acadie, the organization that represents the Acadian people. I wanted to highlight his commitment to his community and his inspiring career. Colleagues, these people who immigrate are restaurant owners, business people, fishers, and farmers. They are elected officials, academics, educators, students, artists, and managers. They are from all trades and professions. But above all, they are human beings driven by a deep desire to grow, to integrate into our communities, and to contribute to our country. As an optimist by nature, I sincerely believe that we can succeed in bringing our communities and immigrants together. It is about the future of our country, but most of all, it is about the future of the people who make the courageous decision to continue their lives in our country, Canada. Thank you for your attention.